Welcome, everyone, to 451 Degrees, the censorship podcast on the Unsafe Space network. I am Alex Miceli, also known as Alex of All Trades, and joining me today is Ian.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How's it going?
Oh, it's going. It's been an interesting day for sure. How about yourself?
Relatively well, actually, today. Yesterday was work. Today's good.
That's good.
But okay. We want to talk about vague rules for a lot of the, essentially content creation. Social media is content creation, whether or not you're using it, to make money or whatever. But
right.
You are actually creating content for it. But so a couple of months ago, it's probably about May 2021, I got into an argument with a self-published writer on Twitter about Amazon's publishing rules. She was going over them. She was going over how her book kept getting buried, no matter how many different ways she changed it. Changed the title, changed the cover, changed the description. It wouldn't matter. They would still shadow ban it. And she could see that. And she could see that her readers were not seeing the book in recommendations and stuff like that, even though they bought previous books. And she said she had no idea why.
What was the topic?
Well, that's the thing, is that a lot of a big chunk of self-publishing is romance novels, and has been for a while. So mainly, I think romance novelists realized that Harlequin was going to be toppled by self-publishing, that they didn't have to work with Harlequin's crazy rules anymore, and they could just break in and get to the public by themselves using something like Amazon.
Instead, they have to worry about Amazon's crazy rules. Yes.
But gotcha. Unlike Harlequin, that had a huge ass list you could take a look at, which I've seen it. I studied this in grad school, actually. Amazon does not publish the rules. There is no place that you can really see the rules to know when you're going to violate them.
It's awfully nice and vague now, isn't it?
Yes. And the thing was that when I said that was wrong to this author, this is when the argument started. I told her that they should let her see the rules, that everyone should be able to see these rules. And she said, pretty much quoting the bullshit, by the way, that they had to hide the rules so that bad actors wouldn't abuse them.
Mental gymnastics, as always. Yeah.
And that's the corporate line. Like that is. I've heard that from YouTube. We don't want you to see our rules because we don't want bad actors to abuse them. Now, my problem with that is that apply that to governmental law, like actual law that we have to follow as citizens.
God, yeah.
Like, would anyone be okay with it?
No, nobody would, right? I mean, it's like, as I think on average, most people commit like 12 felonies a day. I don't know if you've ever heard about that. Yeah,
I did.
That's what we want, is more vagaries in our laws to make sure that you increase the number of felonies you commit and potentially get thrown in prison. So, I mean, wow, that's interesting.
So this is currently just hitting people who are trying to monetize their content, like that idea. It's like hitting in Amazon self-publishing pretty harshly, and there's no way around it, because I think once a book like ISBN essentially is gigged, that it's forever gigged. It will forever be in violation, which to me, like, I know it has something to do with it being overly sexual or whatever, because it's a romance novel. But I'm like, isn't that the point of the entire genre? Pretty much. But to me, I have a real problem with that writer actually defending that, because I think that line from Amazon or from YouTube, whoever you're talking about, is so wrong. Because if you think about it, if you technically digitally sign terms and conditions,
a contract,
It's a contract. Can you imagine one business to another business, or as a writer signing on with a publisher, them going, these are the terms, but we also have all these rules, but we're not going to tell you what those rules are. And if you violate any of them, we will punish you. Like from the perspective of a contract.
Yeah. like the idea of you violated our contract, therefore we're going to sue you. And it's like, well, what did I violate? Well, we can't tell you.
You have to prove it you have to prove it in a court of law for it to, stand up. Even if they do punish you, maybe outside of court, they like pull your book deal or whatever, then you could sue them if they didn't have grounds, it wasn't in their the contract didn't, they told you a reason, but it wasn't something that you agreed to in the contract. You could take them to court for that. Mm-hmm. Now, so there's a big problem with when it's self-publishing for Amazon, and then now it's also a problem for YouTubers. YouTubers have no idea what the rules are. I mean, this is notorious. We have no idea at any given moment what the rule will be. And not only that, but they'll backtrack into our content and apply new rules
to older content from before it violated the rules, so to speak. Yeah. So I know that they did that to Crowder quite a bit, and there's been channels that have been destroyed because of that. Yeah, it's crazy. It really is, and it's like you said, it's arbitrary. The funny thing when I started hearing YouTube saying, "Oh, we don't want people skirting close to the line." Well, if they're skirting close to the line, they haven't violated your rules yet. So why is that a problem?
Yeah.
But now they want to get these people that are skirting the line that are within policy, but they want to get rid of them because they don't like what they're saying.
Yeah, that's the real problem with all of this, is that if you have the rules, you can follow them, and then you can hold them to account. If they can hold YouTube accountable. You can hold YouTube accountable, or Amazon, whatever platform you're talking about. You can hold them accountable for punishing you if you didn't actually violate a rule, and you can prove that. But you can't prove that if they never show you the rules. Yeah. So this is not, this is a censorship technique. It is not actually a way of preventing bad actors. That is the biggest line of bullshit corporations could ever give you.
Yeah, it's also, I think, a way of them being able to skirt any kind of lawsuits that come as a result of that. If they don't show you the rules, if you're getting banned and you haven't broken the rules, I mean, you could potentially sue that platform, and that is another way for them to go and obfuscate that. So, we're censoring you. You know it, we know it, but we're going to make it very difficult for you to go and sue us as a result of that.
Yes, exactly. And we're seeing that more and more. I know Sargon of Akkad does have an arbitration lawsuit, I believe, with Patreon, because they did violate policy that they had given to him in writing. And same thing with all the people who followed him and were patrons. So that was a really big deal. That
for something that he did on somebody else's live stream, mocking, the other group. Which is hilarious. I know. I am very, very tired of the idea that what you do on another platform will affect you on this one, or what, like that they cross, because we've seen that where people get banned across multiple platforms, like in a row. It's like dominoes. Whether or not they ever misbehaved on X platform, they will get banned from it if they misbehaved on Y platform. And that's really inappropriate, because it's like, it has nothing to do with the content they're creating, on the other platform, but they don't care. And I think it's something that I believe people need to start pushing back on, that, you're signing these terms and conditions, but they're not clear. And they need to be clear for us to be really accepting them, for them to stand up in court, I believe, anyway.
I know that they can say, well, we have our rules, but I don't know what your rules are. So if I don't know what your rules are, how can I be held accountable?
Like, and one of the things that you kind of briefly point out with the whole thing with Sargon is that they are bound by arbitration. And so the other thing too, which was encouraged, which really hurt Patreon at the end of the day, is that it wasn't just Sargon who started filing these arbitration issues. It was his patrons that were doing it too, which actually put Patreon in a huge financial bind.
Yes.
Because it's each individual, they had to pay the cost, because that was in the deal that Patreon would pay the cost of the arbitration, and it was binding arbitration. And suddenly they're getting slapped with all these arbitration, claims coming from his patrons. So that is one way of fighting back with the stuff, is that you can hit them using their own rules.
Yes. I know that they changed the rules almost immediately after that.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
They did.
They were screwed.
And I immediately jumped off Patreon after that. I was like, I don't like, because they did change the rules so that they wouldn't be slapped with something like this again. Because I know one of the things they did is they went to a judge and asked if they could do like a class action kind of arbitration instead.
Judge said no.
And judge said no. And that was awesome. That was like the best news ever, because they deserved it. They really did. It's like, you can't violate your contract like that. And this is that's what that is. You violated a contract, and now you have to pay the, the ticket. I thought that was like some of the best news ever, but I was also like, Patreon may not be the most long-term way to make money at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately. It's sad how it went down, but they really did do it to themselves, though.
They did. And they started as a way, because the founder was a YouTuber. And he said it was like impossible. It was impossible to make money on YouTube without killing yourself. And he thought that was horrible. So he wanted to make sure that people had another method of making money while still being YouTubers. And his answer to that was Patreon. And it was like, it was a good idea. I give him that. It was a good idea. A bunch more popped up as a result. But they didn't stick to principles and stick to their actual contracts that they had people signing. And you can't run a business like that.
Yeah. The insanity that is, current year, right? It's
I know.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Like and then that's the thing too, is that like because they screwed up so bad with Sargon, a lot of people jumped ship. Some people were saying, like, I think James Lindsay said, if you jump ship as a patron, you're hurting the people you want to support. And it's like, if you want support from people, I wouldn't be on Patreon anymore.
I jumped ship too.
Options.
There were several people I was supporting on Patreon, and when that happened to Sargon, I pulled out. Yeah,
a lot of people did. A lot of people said, I don't want to deal with a company that does this, and that's totally legitimate. And I know that when I bring up Amazon publishing, we said, and I think it was the last one, we said, don't buy things from Amazon. But there are a lot of people who, because Amazon has their self-publishing system, like if you are exclusive to them for at least 3 months on a book, you can get more promotion. Yeah. So a lot of writers go that way. And we had a commenter to bring that up, that she publishes on Amazon. And I've considered it. I'm looking around to see where and how I want to publish my novels. And I was like, we need to talk about this, because I do think it's important that novelists still get to self-publish their books. Like, authors still need to have that avenue, especially the romance novelists. They don't have any like real other option at this point. But Amazon is still not the best system if it's screwing over its writers like that without telling them. And like there's all these like specialty tags that you can't see as a creator that will shadow ban you. And
that's nuts.
It is. I mean, we've a lot of people have talked about shadow banning on social media platforms and on YouTube. You know, like, oh, some people are getting delisted essentially, you know, quietly, so that they're not getting the views that they should be getting. They're not getting the discoverability they should be getting. But I think it's especially bad for the novelists on Amazon, because there's not a lot of options out there. The other options are like Google, because Google has their Google Books, for like play books, I think is what it's called. And then there's only like a few others, but they're all big names. There's no self-publishing that is like for novels or novel length titles. That's you know, actually believes in freedom of speech.
There's definitely a market out there for someone to create a platform like that. But I think a lot of what people are going to have to do, and this is probably going to be more difficult, because obviously publishing on Amazon makes sense because you can get a lot more traffic through Amazon. But I think a lot of novelists need to think about maybe going and creating their own website, getting a shopping cart and selling their product through that. I mean, the main thing obviously is going to be driving traffic to your website. It's a lot more convenient to go through Amazon and whatnot, because there's already people on the platform and they're searching for something. Odds are your book might come up. But I think that a lot of novelists are going to have to take responsibility for their own product and marketing their own product, not just relying on other companies to do that for them. And this is what people used to do back in the day before Amazon, and before, I mean, Amazon's been around for a while, but before Amazon got really big, and before the whole thing was self-publishing, and you know, everybody used to have a website back in the, you know, the late 90s, early 2000s, and maybe we should start bringing that back. And it's like, even me as a content creator on YouTube, I do a very poor job of managing my website, but it's something that's always on the forefront of my mind. If I get banned on YouTube, well, how am I going to get my content out there? I got to take responsibility for my own content again.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's harder. It's definitely a hell of a lot more work.
It is.
Even when, as a content creator on a big platform like YouTube or Amazon, there's still like an 80-20 split on promotion. It's just, you're getting a slight bump, I'd say. And I think the thing with the Amazon publishing is that if someone buys a book similar to your book, they get the recommendations.
Right.
And your book might pop up there. And that's where, you know, you're getting the most help. But like I said, they do that 3-month boost thing, where it's like, if you're not published anywhere else, they will up the amount of boost you get.
Right.
But I think a lot of novels are gonna have to start really, especially the ones that write the really crazy, dirty stuff. Like, it's like
self-published on your own website.
Out there, find them.
Yeah.
You get your own website. Yeah, most of these writers already have their own website. They're just not I don't think they're utilizing it to the level that they probably should.
Probably not. Yeah.
And it's like, you're already doing your ebook creation. I know you're doing that because no one's doing like Amazon's not doing that for you. Although there's all these, like, you have to, when you create an ebook, depending on which platform you're going to, creating the EPUB, you have to do all these different rules depending on what platform you're putting it on. And it's a little complex. And then also you have to consider what e-reader essentially people are going to be using. So it's a very complex thing, and I get that some people just don't want to also on top of that deal with promotion, but it's like you gotta, like, or already you should be doing it already, but you need to consider it, especially if you're starting to run into the shadow banning. Like, you're on your own at that point.
Yeah, I get why, you know, it's convenient, because like if you go buy it, you know, Kindle app or the Kindle itself, you know, people have the ability to go and just download it, and it's very convenient for the author. But those days are kind of, you know, quickly running out, though. I mean, it's convenient to a point, but you're really playing by somebody else's rules, as you pointed out several times. And Yeah. If you want to, publish some smut, certain, platforms aren't going to be cool with that. So it's like you might want to look at, again, self-publishing on your own website.
Definitely. And so then when it comes to YouTube does the same thing. And I've seen several YouTube creators say that they're being delisted, that they're being shadow banned. I've seen YouTube creators say that they can't share this video, that it, like, people can't, like, what was it? Like, if you go to their channel page, you can't see the video. And they didn't private it, which means it's privated on the back by someone else.
Yeah, by YouTube itself.
By YouTube itself. And then they end up having to go, could you please share it with direct link, because I can't get it, like, you can't see it. It didn't send out notifications to people, because that's the other thing, is that, like, they're supposed to send notifications to people who have the notification bell rung. Sometimes
that's why I think building maybe like a mailing list kind of comes in. I mean, if this is something I've thought about multiple times, is other ways to promote my videos, since YouTube is obviously not doing that for me. Building a subscription list and an email list to say, okay, here's my new content. This is the new thing I published on YouTube or Twitter or whatever. Go check it out. I think is, again, kind of the way to go these days, because of all the censorship that we're seeing from big tech.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've heard a lot of writers actually talk about subscription lists, that they have an email list. They sometimes ask, can I share it with another author? That kind of stuff. That's another one, is that it's like, or like, hey, can we do a trade? Like, you promote my stuff on your next newsletter, and I promote your stuff on my next newsletter. And that's a really good way of reaching people who might be interested already.
Yes. That's a good idea.
Without
collaboration with other authors.
Yeah. And we can do that as YouTubers too, I think. I think, like, because I don't think these platforms are going to be doing it for us. I think they're already, YouTube especially, I think, since the adpocalypse, has basically just given up on promotion channels that are not official, essentially. I've just not seen people rise to the top. Like, I know Spiffing Brit has gone over several different ways that you gain the system in YouTube, because he's tested it. And I know one of the things he said was I know they were a few months back now, but they were some pretty interesting ideas. One of them was about a bug, though, that
it's probably been fixed. Maybe.
Yeah, because it involved the dislike button.
Really?
Yes, it was kind of hilarious. What it was you have an Android phone, you have an auto clicker on your phone, and you hit for every time you hit the like button, I think it was like you hit the dislike button 10 times, and it creates a +2 to your like every time. So then, like, if you auto click that, you could get it up like 1,000 likes or whatever, in like a few minutes, essentially. And I was like, I doubt that's going to be around for much longer. And then, like, recently they're like, say goodbye to the dislike button. I'm like, gee, I wonder why. It's not just... And then also, at the same time, the likes stopped pushing videos. I noticed that. Like, they stopped increasing promotion, like, in discoverability. And I think they shut that off like a few months ago. That sounds interesting. But they one of the reasons why they removed the dislike button is because they don't like people over downvoting something that is crappy.
Which is funny, considering I found that the videos that have the most downvotes when it comes to my content have the highest levels of engagement. And that means that a lot of people that are not within my audience are watching the video. And that's the big thing, right? Is making sure that somebody else that is not already subbed to you is discovering your video and watching it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
It was funny. I think one of my viewers was like, my regulars was like, there's so many downvotes on this one video. And I said to him, hey, it's engagement. And he was like, oh.
It is engagement. That's the thing that I think is so funny. It's like if you don't like the video, the worst thing you can do is just not interact with it. Don't leave a comment. Don't leave a dislike or an upvote. So it's just it's all helping the video. It's all engagement.
Well, it was kind of funny. I think once my friend went to watch a video and I recognized the guy who made the video, and I said to my friend, I was like, I can't stand this guy. He's such a jerk. And he goes, well, then I'm not watching the video. And I was like, okay, you're just going to take my word for it. And he's like, well, I trust you. And and he didn't dislike it either. He was just like, nope, no, video's done. And
that's
I was like, yeah, that was... the absolute worst thing you can do. Because that's the thing that I like seeing is how far did people watch into the video? Mm-hmm. You know, like with the longer videos, did they watch the whole thing or did they go like a minute in and go, I'm done?
Yeah.
I feel like that's really important information. It's like, when did you lose your audience?
Well, the great thing about it is that you can actually tell in the analytics now when somebody's jumping off a video, which is actually pretty helpful.
It is. It definitely is. It can help you change things, I think, for the better. I think all that information is like great. I just know that YouTube is not doing anything to help me out beyond giving me info. You know, like there's nothing there there's nothing they're doing to help me get bigger as a channel.
Yeah, and, you gotta self-promote, which I'm terrible at.
Well, I started doing this thing where I make like 2.5 minute long videos that are like silly and funny, and I post those on other social medias. And every time I do that, which I don't do it very often, I get a bump of like 10 subscribers per video, which for me at less than 1,000 subscribers right now is a good increase.
It is a good increase, yeah.
So I'm like, it's worth my time to do that. Now, so that's the kind of stuff that you have to be doing to get around things like shadow bans and delisting and then discoverability being so low on the actual platform itself. You know, you have to promote like that. And I know a lot of people are like, why are you on social media? Why are you on this platform? And it's like promotion. Like the fact that I have to do that. I don't necessarily want to get on these other social media platforms, but I do because promotion. I understand that. Now, there is a certain point where it's like this social media platform is so like the mental health impact is so low that it's not worth it. And you're like, okay, this one's not, and you're like, well, it's also not giving me the promotion I need anyway. So I'm like, you know, you get off of it. I get that, like that, you know, you do have to gauge that to make sure you know. Now, these vague rules, though, they are on all social media platforms. They're on Twitter. They're on Facebook.
We're seeing it on Getter too, which is the big new hotness, which I've haven't really bothered to create an account on yet because of some of the issues I think we're seeing with it now.
I think I got on it in July before I got banned from Twitter. So I heard about it and was like, oh. And then now more of my friends are on it, at least. So that's nice. But I think the only one that I really didn't, I started an account, which is probably a good thing just for claiming the name on Gab. That was the one I didn't stick around on. I don't really engage in that one. But yeah, Gitter is the new hotness, and it's really because Dr. Malone got kicked off of Twitter.
Yep, and he created an account there. And then Joe Rogan did as well.
Yeah, I thought it was so funny too, because I watched the podcast, Joe Rogan's podcast with Robert Malone, and and just hearing Joe Rogan go, "What's Gitter?" And I was like,
I hadn't heard about it until the whole thing with Rogan. I'd never heard of it. Yeah, I mean, I know
so many people had never heard of it, and I was like, "Wow, really?" And I was like, because I'd been on it for months at that point, and I was like, oh, I guess, I don't know, maybe I pay a lot of attention to social media platforms, but because I'm also on Minds.
Yeah, I'm on Minds as well, but I don't use it as much as I probably should.
Yeah, I'm on MeWe, which I find it wants to be a Facebook, I think.
It wants to be a Facebook, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I find it a little like weird. I don't know. And then Robert Malone also got kicked off of LinkedIn.
Which is insane.
I know. And like if you look at his resume and his publishing list of, you know, books and studies, it's sort of outrageous that anyone could claim this information on him.
Doesn't go with the narrative. You know what happens when you don't go with the narrative? They ban your ass.
Yes.
PDQ.
And they use the vague rules to do it. They won't. The rules are vague so that they can pick and choose when to apply them, and so that not just so that you can't take them to court for violating.
Yeah, especially when they view someone as being dangerous, like Dr. Malone.
Yes, definitely. Like they definitely are doing it to make sure that they can get the people that are damaging their other interests. That's the thing that I like. A lot of people want to say it's like, oh, it was misinformation. It's like, no, there's a lot of incestuous connections here on how people are making money. And a lot of that a lot of the censorship we're seeing has to do with preventing information that would hurt their ability to make money.
Yeah, look at what happened with Parler when they got kicked off of AWS. And you know, the funny thing about it is Twitter just signed a big contract with AWS. So what was it about? Was it truly about, you know, what was being posted on Parler, or was it about eliminating the competition?
That I've said this before. That's a violation of antitrust because
you would think.
Well, it's like a collusive, like industry supply chain violation of antitrust, where you disrupt the supply chain to your competitor essentially, and the suppliers are in cahoots with you, and so that's still a violation because they're like, you just because you're not doing it doesn't mean it's not against the whole purpose of antitrust.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely collusion, that's for sure.
Yeah. And like a lot of people want to say, oh, it's because, like, I don't understand these people who are so willing to buy corporate bullshit. There's so much of it out there.
Like, so I'm a bit older than you. I remember a point in time when the left used to challenge and call out corporate BS, and I am falling over myself with the fact that is no longer a thing. As a matter of fact, they're the ones that are the staunch corporate defenders.
Yeah, like I get it when like politicians do it. Like I get when they do it because they're making money. Like they're making money, so their motivation makes total sense to me. What doesn't make sense to me is the people on the bottom. You know, just us regular citizens types buying the bullshit and spreading it too about this corporate BS, like the bad actors line. And I just especially it's hurting her as a writer, and she is spouting the bullshit, and I'm like, how are I just can't. It feels like cognitive dissonance to me.
In a lot of ways, it is. I mean, a lot of people, I think, they don't think more than one step ahead when it comes to something, and they don't realize how these things are going to impact them in the future when they're for these types of policies and what corporations are doing. It's going to hurt them long term, but they don't care about it because it's, you know, I'm suppressing the opposition, or, you know, I'm fine with the opposition being suppressed, but it will never happen to me, right? Because I'm on the right side of history. That's the mentality. And they understand it's like, no, at some point in time, you're going to not be on the right side of history, and you're going to be censored too. And we have seen this happen on the left. It doesn't happen as much as it impacts the right and people who are centrists, but it does happen to them on occasion.
Yeah. Like, okay. I remember I asked that question January last year of my friends on Facebook. Some of them I know personally. I was like, would you really honestly be okay if the shoe was on the other foot? And they're like, the shoe wouldn't be on the other foot, essentially, is what their response was. And I was like, that's incredibly fucking naive. My God, I cannot accept how naive you are. Like, it's flabbergastingly bad to just believe that. Like, you trust politicians that much? You trust anyone that much?
Well, I think they truly believe they will consider, they will continually be on the right side of history. That's the issue, is that they think that they will never be, the shoe will never be on the other foot.
Yeah. Well, and part of me goes, but it's also setting a precedent, though, over who has what power. So if you're in a position of power, you're in X position, we gave you the ability to censor something. Okay? Well, that person dies. Someone else gets that position. Now they have that power, and they will use it how they see fit. And you don't know what they're planning. So you don't know what this is, a potential that you've not accounted for. A lot of people, I think, are like, even corporations do not think further ahead than 3 months. I really feel like that is not something a lot of people are really capable of doing.
Americans honestly are the worst at it, thinking long-term planning, as compared to like other countries like India. Yeah, America is actually probably one of the lowest countries when it comes to long-term planning and thinking, whether it be government or corporations or individuals.
Yeah, because I see it a lot in finance, the way people spend money. That's true on the corporate level, how they don't think long-term sometimes, and that's why sometimes they fail like dramatically.
Yes.
And then I see it with individuals when they don't save correctly or spend on really dumb things, or just make bad financial decisions. And we're seeing that, I think, on the government level, in the fact that the federal government keeps going deeper and deeper into debt. And my problem with that is that England, during World War II, people stopped giving them loans.
Yeah.
Because they were not going to be able, they were not seen as a good investment. And some countries have stopped giving the U.S. loans. And so I'm like, you might want to consider the history of that when we're no longer a good investment to some places.
Yeah, what's going to happen at some point, in my opinion, is that we will lose reserve currency status, and it's game over at that point. It's going to really hurt the United States, and I think we'll see some very terrible hyperinflation. Don't know if it's going to happen. It's, like I said, this is just my opinion. But if we ever lose that reserve currency status, we're screwed, flat out.
Yeah, like I that worries me like a lot, because I don't think anyone in positions to affect this really cares, and they're not thinking long term.
Yeah.
And as we said, that seems to be a really American problem, that long-term decision making, long-term planning is not high on the list of skills. And it's
well, they want good corporate serfs, right? That's the kind of the end game.
Yeah, and if the bottom drops out of the country, then a lot of us are not going to be able to pick and choose where we work.
Yeah.
And for how much. So yeah, it could be a plan. I don't know, but I'm not happy with the direction it's going. I'll be honest with you. And I think that I think though that the idea that letting corporations that behind these social media platforms have their vague rules feeds into that long term. Like, there's a lot of this kind of problems that where you're giving all this power to a select chunk of companies and government entities that aren't being honest with you as a citizen or as a customer. And as such, you can't ever hold them to account. There's no way to hold them to account if they're never going to be honest with you about what their expectations are of you. and they are willing to be vague so that if they decide they don't like you, they will take you out. In whatever way that means. Usually it means essentially ruining your ability to make money.
Or removing your source income, therefore the ability to purchase food for yourself and your family. Yeah, I mean, that rolls right into the whole thing with cancel culture.
Yes, exactly. And I think a lot of the cancel culture apologists would say that I think some of them know, honestly, that the vague rules are bullshit and they're happy with it. I think some of them know. I think some of them honestly believe they're a good thing. But I believe some of the cancel culture mob is malicious, is vindictive. And
absolutely. I think there's also a lot of people that, I think there's also people who are ignorant and they're like, oh no, this is consequence culture, which is like, if you actually looked into it, you know that's not the case. It's like there are vindictive people out there that want to hurt other people because they want that dopamine hit. It's like, my guy, it's just Twitter. Social media is not real life. People need to, get a grip. And it's like, when I make a video where I talk about something, even if I'm interacting with the opposition on Twitter, my goal is not to hurt them or ruin their life. But that might be the case with them because they, they're othering you or whatnot. And I think at the end of the day, everybody needs to remember that there's a human being on the other side of the keyboard, even if we're throwing snark at each other. And it's ridiculous, especially when it comes to the whole cancel culture thing. It's like you are actively campaigning to ruin somebody's life. It's like, did you think about the consequences of that? I mean, what if somebody did that to you? It's ridiculous.
Well, that's again, they don't think the shoe's ever going to be on the other foot.
Right.
They don't believe it's a possibility, because that's the thing, though, is that one of the problems with cancel culture mob is that it creates this idea, if you're part of the mob, that you're a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Good people who believe they're a good person are willing to do anything and especially if they desperately want to feel like a good person. And it's like, and be seen as a good person. And to me, I'm sort of like, does it really matter that much if someone knows that you're a good person so much as if you are a good person?
Yeah.
Like, that's the part that really bothers me, is that it's like,
but if they don't tell everybody, they won't get those social media backpats.
Yeah. And again, like you said, that's not real life.
Yeah, it's not real life.
I do have a real problem with people who do things for appearances. Like, it's just, it's like, to me, part of me is like, it's a waste of time. It's an absolute waste of time, because are you ever going to fully get the crowd's approval? Is that appetite that you have ever going to be satisfied in the first place? No. So you're wasting your time. You'd be better off getting past that urge, and just trying to be a good person for real, like doing good things and not being a dick online. Now, I've said before, you said, got to remember that the other person on the other end is a real person. I have a hard time with that when they turn into a mob and they start trying to get someone fired. I have a really hard time.
Yeah. I understand. I do. I completely understand that.
I don't know. I guess because my focus at that point is the person who's going to get fired. I'm like, I don't care. That the person, that the people trying to get the person fired are a person with feelings. I don't care at that point. And I know that might not seem nice, but it's just, I don't know. My focus is on the person who's the victim.
Yeah, no, I get that, because it's like the difference between saying something and actually doing it. It's like, it's one thing to joke about killing someone, and it's another thing to actually do it. Right.
Yes.
And once you actually commit that action, I'd say the stakes are completely different, but the terms are completely different at that point. They're saying something, and people want to equate saying something with actually doing it. Right. Yeah. And that's like one of the bigger problems I think that we face in today's, modern world, is that just because you say something doesn't mean you're actually going to do it, first off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Words aren't violence.
No.
Silence is not violence.
What was the one that really made
Forced
me laugh
compliance.
was the one that made me laugh, the phrase that made me laugh the most, because I was like, wow, that's really dumb, was silence is compliance. And because I was like, I don't know that you want to use those, you want to equate those when you're also the Me Too movement.
Yeah. It's like I would use that during a meeting, right? Does anyone have anything they want to talk about? Especially if I want to end a meeting. If nobody says something, I was like, okay, silence is compliance. We're done. It's different on social media, right? I mean, it's just people are allowed to not have opinions on stuff, right? That's the thing I think is so funny is that there's a lot of things in this world that I don't have strong opinions on, and I don't express them. But just because I don't do that doesn't mean I'm compliant with something.
No. There's a lot of things that I won't talk about on social media or in these videos or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I have a strong opinion on them. I have like experience and stuff to back it up, but it's no one's business necessarily. If I choose to keep it private, it's private. And if I choose silence, that's me saying I don't want to engage. That's not necessarily the same thing as me saying I agree. Silence is not agreement. Like silence is non-engagement. If I don't want to talk about it, I don't want to talk about it. That's not me saying yes or no. I think that's a real problem right now. And you see that with like all these mobs like really pushing for like this company or that store to like put out a political statement on something. I did see it was a Colorado bookstore in 2020 did not go whole hog into the Black Lives Matter thing, and a writer whose book I had reviewed, in fact, for my channel, like said, well, then I'm not coming for my reading. I'm canceling my reading.
Jesus.
And then like, and all these other people were like, I'm not going. This was an indie bookstore too. This wasn't like a Barnes and Noble. This was an indie bookstore. And so, they basically, like tried to kill this bookstore for not being like whole hog. I want to talk about Black Lives Matter. We support Black Lives Matter.
I think my response would be, well, I guess I'm not going to carry your book anymore.
I would order from the mail from that bookstore.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yes, please send me some books. I'll pay you. Because I actually did, I'll be honest, I did sever ties with an indie bookstore for going too woke and getting like, it was more like I was part of book clubs there and stuff. But then they kept pushing these very woke titles, and they kept pushing the narrative and everything, and they were like really just intense about it. And I'm like, I just don't enjoy going to this store anymore. I don't enjoy the book clubs anymore. So it was it wasn't even a political statement. It was more like, I'm not having fun at your business anymore, so I'm not going to give you my business anymore.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't even me like really going, I'm gonna boycott them. No, that wasn't like the thought I had, but they still killed any kind of relationship I had with them as a customer. So I think I do think it's hilarious though when one place like says, we're firing this person, and because they said something that you guys the mob didn't like, and the mob still tries to cancel the company. And then people who are against cancel culture are like, well, then I'm leaving too. You're not getting my business either.
It really is a no-win situation when you appeal to the mob when it comes to cancel culture and stuff like that. It's like you're obviously going to get it from the cancel culture people, and there's the people that would normally support you, and they're going to pull out too because they don't want to. I don't want to do business with a company that's going to fire somebody because somebody's something off color on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, and now they're being canceled. It's ridiculous. It's like I can understand if it was an employee talking shit about the company online, that's never a good thing, and the company fires them.
dumb idea.
Yeah, it's absolutely dumb. And I know people that's happened to. But it's just, when did you become the arbiter of morality and the arbiter of truth that you can do this to somebody? It's like, I don't care if somebody comes at me on Twitter. I'm not going to try and hunt that person down and get them fired from their job because of, they said something stupid or mean to me on Twitter. It's just like, it's not real life, people.
No. And it's just words. That's the thing too, is that it's like, words. Did we all forget the sticks and stones? Do we all need to go back to grade school? But that's problematic. Yeah. Oh God. I really, really can't stand that crap. I'm like they keep problematizing everything that would help you as a person be like whole and, like really stand up to this shit. They really try to, they're trying to take all the tools away, essentially. They're trying to make all the tools nuclear, so it's impossible. Now, but besides really taking control of self-promotion, is there anything else that you think like content creators should really do?
Building a network, I think is good. Even like in the prepping community, that's like a big thing because you're only one person, right? So building a network, whether it be your supporters or whatnot, I think it is a good way. That I think that definitely helps with promotion. Is that it's the reason why a lot of YouTubers, and I kind of stopped doing this, but say, hey, make sure to like and share the video, because it helps, get the content out there. Even just sharing things on Twitter helps. I mean, I see a lot of my engagement coming from Twitter as an outside source. Another thing too, when it comes to self-promotion, and this is it's a crazy topic, it is search engine optimization. Learning a little bit about that to help when it comes to like fine-tuning your website. It's something I used to know a little bit about, not anymore because it's been years, but it's making sure that you get that stuff fine-tuned for your website to help other people find it when they search for something.
There's a few places you can watch courses for free on SEO to help you out if you are a content creator. I definitely suggest it. I basically anytime you share anything, you should have some kind of tags on it to help yourself out. Because a lot of websites are built on, like, unfortunately, like it's
even YouTube videos tagging it and stuff like that. That definitely helps with the algorithm and search terms.
I
search terms is huge.
I tag all of my YouTube videos, every single one of them. And it does help, actually. That helps more than basically anything else that YouTube could possibly do. But they don't tell you that,
No,
there's
they don't.
nothing. And especially like one of the places that you should put the tags for YouTube videos, especially, is some of them anyway, like the most important ones, is in the description.
Yes, the description. Having that search term in the description and the title is very helpful.
Yes. Those are the two big ones. Now, I think that I think you should make, I think networking is probably like one of the biggest things that a lot of people need to do. For one thing, as a creator, it makes you feel not so alone. Like you're just, you're the only one having these problems. That's not true at all. So I definitely think that making those connections is going to be really helpful. And you're going to probably trade advice that's going to be helpful too, not just, promoting each other's content to each other's audiences. I think that's really important. And I do think being on multiple platforms helps.
I think it does. Another thing too, and this is, kind of goofy, is create a YouTube channel. I mean, build an audience. One way of building an audience for your book is to build an audience on YouTube. Talk about either something related to that topic that your novel covers, or just talk about books in general. Something that other people will go, try and find, etc.
That was one of the reasons why I started doing book reviews. Not only just because I like talking about books. I mean, I think a lot of your engagement though has to be authentic.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like if you sound like you're selling, you're probably going to turn people off. But if you sound like you really give a shit about these things, I think you're going to get a better response. Like, I talk about books. I could talk about like one book for 3 hours, and that's not probably the greatest content, but I could like really talk about these things, and I'm very enthusiastic about talking about books and talking about video games and all these things. And so to me, I feel like that is actually the thing people are going to latch onto, is if you're enthusiastic and authentic about the things you're talking about. I think
absolutely.
for that.
Another thing too is to reach out to a YouTuber that maybe covers books and saying, hey, can you have me on your live stream if you do live streams, or talk about my book? You know, if you don't want to create a channel, reaching out to a YouTuber to help with that promotion, you never know. It's worth a shot, right? I mean, they might blow you off, or they might say, hey, yeah, it's a great idea. Come on, we'll talk about your book.
Yeah, you could talk to a bunch of different, like, find YouTubers. There's BookTube is big. It is. Mm-hmm. And you can find a bunch of ones that cover your kind of book, your genre, and just ask. Say, I would watch a few of their videos first, though. That's the same. It's the same kind of policy for writing in an agent query. You got to look at what kind of content they're already doing and see if you're a good fit. And
yes,
so
that makes sense.
It's the same policy, I would say, as the query letters. Now, I think that feels like a lot of information that we've gone over. We've vacillated through a lot of things. Now, I think that for the most part, the vague rules are the biggest lie that these platforms have ever said. Like, honestly, like, beyond the narratives, beyond and why they suspend one particular person, the fact that they defend vague rules by giving the bad actors lie, I just think that's the worst thing they've done. It's the most undercutting of your...
No, it's insidious, for sure.
It's so terrible. So I would, honestly, I don't know how to get them to stop. But...
now, using those platforms would be my guess. Going to the alternatives. I know it's so difficult being a YouTuber, right? And YouTube being one of the worst platforms, but we have to use it. But making sure that you do use the alt tech platforms as well, just because you never know if you're going to get, canceled off the platform. And if you do, you have another place to put your content.
Yeah, definitely. And I know I have all my content saved in external hard drives. Like,
yeah, same here. Everything I have is backed up to a NAS, so...
Yeah, I have more than 1,000 videos now. I have more videos than I have subscribers.
That's good. Having a lot of videos is good.
Yeah, it's a lot of content. So,
I don't know how much. I don't think I've hit 1,000 videos on my YouTube channel. Yeah.
Well, I started doing shorts in 2020, so
that makes sense.
It was about one a day, plus 4 live streams a week, plus at least 1 edited video a week. So I produce a lot, actually.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, but everything's on external hard drives. It's not all the best content. Hopefully, with the new computer, it'll be better content. But I think that's all we're gonna go over today. Because so much. It was just so much information.
Yeah, it's a
lot. So I want to thank you all so much for watching this, and thank you for joining me again, Ian. Always great to have you on for these conversations.
Yeah, it's always great talking to you.
Thank you. So if you guys could walk your fingers over to the like and subscribe buttons, we really appreciate it. And we would like it if you would share this video in places, tell your friends, all that stuff. It's the self-promotion we were talking about.
It is.
And thank you again so much for joining us. Until next time.
Thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, we have a deep content library that includes interviews with everyone from Mike Cernovich to Megan Murphy, so go check it out. If you'd like to see more, please consider supporting the show by visiting unsafespace.com/donate. You can find us on all the major social media platforms, at least for now. And you can find a community of like-minded individuals on our Unsafe Space chat on Telegram. See you there.
Warning. This is an unsafe space. Dangerous ideas have been detected. The content of this production has not been authorized by the Cathedral. Pay no attention to it. Please download this updated list of contagious individuals. I am authorized to assure you that your sacred freedom to choose between available approved options will be preserved. Mass formation psychosis is just a right-wing talking point. Please purge it from memory and resume your programming. If you think about it, no one should be allowed to express opinions. But don't. Think about it, I mean. That's not your job. Thinking has been scientifically proven to be less efficient than compliance. Science, scientific, and scientifically are registered trademarks of the World Economic Forum. Unauthorized use is prohibited. Computer voice courtesy. Never mind, that last line is fake news. Please disregard it and return to your safe space immediately. There will be cake.